The following is a presentation of Lone Star Communications.
The BC Lions will not make the playoffs, but you wonder what might happen if they could play beyond next week. 2 weeks ago, Bob Ovilovich's Lions defeated the Calgary Stampeders, who are first in the West, and they'll try to do the same tonight. Last week, they humiliated the Eskimos in Edmonton. Bob Ovilovich has a team of spoilers.
We want to finish the season on a winning note, and just so it happens that most of the teams left on our schedule are Western opponents, and so it'll serve us well for looking at what we have to, where we have to be and how much better and where we have to improve for next season. So I think that's the way I've approached this situation, and not as a role as a spoiler, but as a role as a winner.
Calgary next week against Saskatchewan.
This is Molson Canadian Football Network.
If the Calgary Stampeders can stay atop the West Division standings, they'll have their first place finish since 1971, which is the last time they won the Grey Cup. That championship team was coached by Jim Duncan, and this year the Stampeders have a Coach of the Year candidate in Wally Buono. Wayne Harris was in the middle of the defense then. There's a rookie named Joe Clausey now. John Helton anchored the defensive line in 71, a role Kent Warnock fills in 1990. Herm Harrison caught passes then. Alan Pitts for over 1,000 yards now. The quarterback in 71 was Jerry Keeling. Now it's Danny Barrett. Keeling sees similarities in the two teams.
I think the team this year has a lot of spirit. They're a team that's been together for several years, and I think that was what made us good back then. Is a lot of the players have been together for 10, 11 years, and anytime you can get a team, you know, with veterans like that to stay together, well, you're going to have a good football team.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to BC Place Stadium. I'm Dave Hodge with Nick Bastaya. Win or lose tonight, the Calgary Stampeders can finish first by beating Edmonton next week. And, Nick, I wonder whether because of that situation, the Stamps might tend to relax just a bit tonight.
Well, I don't think Wally Buono's going to let them relax. They've got an opportunity here to end up in first place by going out and playing hard. That's what Wally wants. He said, let's not worry about next week. I don't want to back into the playoffs or back into first place. And if they do get that first place, they got a week there where they can relax and maybe rest some of those injured players.
Coaches talk about playing one game at a time, and I guess they like to climb in the standings one place at a time. This win, if they can get it tonight, would mean second place, and then they could worry about first place next week if they had to. As we watch this game, we'll watch some of the top players in the CFL. The award nominees announced this week. Kent Warnock, a double nominee for the Stampeders, and the BC Lions have a player who could win in either or both the two categories. Willie Pless, defensive linebacker. The Stampeders are trying for first place, and the BC Lions are trying to upset those plans. One of the big reasons for the Stampeders' success this season has been their excellence on the returns, specifically the kickoff returns in this case. And they need 25 yards, which they might get right off the bat, to set a league record for kickoff return yardage in one season. However, they're without their ace in that department, Ron Hopkins, tonight. And Pee Wee Smith is going to get a chance to lift them over the record as he starts from the 20, has to go to the 45, and there's a record-breaking return by Pee Wee Smith on the game's first play. He's back there because of Ron Hopkins' absence, and there is the new record for the Calgary Stampeders, breaking the mark set last year by the BC Lions, mostly out of futility as BC just simply returned too many kickoffs. The Stampeders have obviously been scored upon too, but they do what you just saw Pee Wee Smith did. They get it back to the 45, 50 to midfield regularly. From the 52-yard line in this case, Danny Barrett with the first offensive play of the game. Going up for Smith. He's got it near the 30.
Danny Barrett, one thing that Danny Barrett does that Rick Warman doesn't do necessarily is he likes to go to his wide receivers a lot more, and you see evidence of that right off the bat, that he's going to throw that ball out to the sideline. He has the arm to throw the wide out to the wide field.
Two big plays by Pee Wee Smith, and now Tony Cherry returning to BC Place Stadium where he used to play. Carries his first ball of the day. Cherry and Andy McVeigh are behind Danny Barrett. Cherry with 3 touchdowns last week at Hamilton. Pitts and Crawford with Pee Wee Smith occasionally, and Sean Beals and Dave Sapungis are the slots. Veteran Lloyd Fairbanks, the most experienced CFL player currently active on the right side of that offensive line. It'll be 2nd down 7 after Tony Cherry's 3-yard run. Barrett was changing the play and took too long to do it, and the Stampeders will be penalized.
Well, the last time these two teams played, there was a bit of a problem with the BC handling the BC blitz.
Time count violation. Calgary number 8. Still 2nd down.
And you saw on numerous occasions where Flats or Landry would come free up the middle. And I think right away Danny Barrett realizes if we've got a problem with our backs or slots picking up the blitz, let's get it straightened right away. Otherwise, he could be in trouble.
2nd and 7 becomes 2nd and 12. Here comes the blitz. Barrett throws, and it is no good. Almost, but not quite for Sean Beals.
Well, once again, Danny Barrett has got that strong arm, not afraid to go to his wide receivers. And what he's trying to do, essentially, is he's trying to stretch out that defense of the BC Lions. Now, the Lions defense, they like to funnel all those receivers in between the hash marks if they can, keep things compact. Obviously, Barrett's going to try to counter that.
Mark McLaughlin from 40 yards away. Straight and true, and the first points go to Calgary. 3 of them with Mark McLaughlin's 40-yard field goal. Speaking of kickoff returners, the Lions have a pretty good one themselves in Lorenzo Graham, the former Stampeder. A newcomer, Eric Starr, is back there with Graham, and the Stampeders will have Starr handle the ball and not Graham. A late cut of the Buffalo Bills, the designated import tonight for the Lions. Eric Starr returns it to the 32-yard line.
Nice ankle tackle that time by Dan Wickham, who Wally Buono calls his special teams player of the year. Doug Flutie, since Bobo Bilovic has come, has really done a much better job of understanding, I think, what's required to be a quarterback in the CFL. Well, Bilovic has him rolling out a lot more, trying to take advantage of that extra large field, and Flutie's really responded.
Flutie setting up the screen. Skinner had to go high to get it. But get it he did, and good running after the catch gives him a first down at the 45. You know, Bobo Bilovic has been criticized somewhat here for not giving Major Harris some work, especially after the Lions have been eliminated, but he has to find out what Doug Flutie can do. He's only had 5 games to look at Flutie, and Flutie didn't have some great games before that, so Bobo Bilovic wants Flutie to get as much playing time as possible, and he certainly responded to that.
That's right. He wants him to realize his potential.
Graham broke a tackle at the line and moved forward for a couple of yards. 3 on the play to the 50.
But I think it's important for the Lions, if they want to take some of the pressure off Doug Flutie, to establish a bit of a running game. And they did a good job with Lorenzo Graham last time they played in Calgary, and obviously that's something else that they want to continue with here tonight.
Here comes the Calgary blitz. Flutie throws for Christensen, and it helps to be as tall as he was on that catch.
Jay Christensen is the nominee for the most outstanding Canadian for the BC Lions this year. And here's a guy that, after kind of nondescript seasons in this league, all of a sudden has kind of come into his own and really found himself. And more than anything, it's just a matter of his own sense of confidence in his abilities and realizing, look, I can play this game, and I can play this game with the best of them.
Graham, a quick hitter, and he's into the open at the 20 and 15 and close to the 10-yard line. You know, in seeing Jay Christensen and then Lorenzo Graham, there are some benefits from the Joe Cap, Larry Kuharich regime. 2 players who followed Coach Q from Calgary to BC and remain as cornerstones of this Lions team. Doug Flutie has Graham and Chris Skinner behind him. Darryl Colbert from Edmonton in the Larry Willis trade, and Tony Hunter, another former Eskimo, of the wide receivers, and a solid offensive line. Really the strength of this BC team all season long. Graham again, and he'll walk into the end zone. Touchdown.
Great job that time. The lead block by Chris Skinner. You see him there to the right of the screen. He takes out that linebacker. Graham just cuts in right behind that block and scampers into the end zone there. And good downfield blocking. Again, everybody's working. Everybody's trying to make the play go. And again, if you're helping each other out, it can be a simple game.
What a great drive by the Lions as they took that Calgary kickoff. Didn't get much of a return and made the rest of it with their offense. 5 plays, 77 yards to Lorenzo Graham's touchdown and a 7-3 BC lead. You're watching Molson Canadian Football Network. The Lions answered Calgary's score with a bigger one of their own, and Tony Martino kicks off again. Pee Wee Smith and Derek Crawford are back, and they'll keep this one on the ground, and Andy McVeigh will have to pick it up. He's a running back himself, though, and McVeigh knows what to do with it. Stopped short of the 45, however, so that seemed to be more successful for the Lions, and you really do have to decide how you're going to handle this Calgary return team to hope that it doesn't beat you by itself.
Well, Graham had 81 yards 2 weeks ago when they played the Stampeders, and if I'm Wally Bono, I've got to be concerned because they're giving up 152 yards a game on average rushing, and that's just too much. It means your defense is on the field an awful lot, and over a course of a game, obviously, they're going to get tired and be less effective.
That ball was not complete. Barrett throwing it right along the line of scrimmage, but Smith caught it on a bounce. The Lions' problems this season have mostly been on defense, and Bob Obilovich admits that that's where the improvement has to come between now and next season. Here's how they line up, and there's not much problem with the linebackers, though the future of Doug Landry in BC has to be questioned. The secondary has been an ever-changing group. Ken Watson and Norm Jefferson on the corners tonight, and Andrew Thomas, a rookie, the left half spot. Flag down where Barrett threw the ball to Crawford, and it'll be holding Calgary.
Well, it was a good job that time by Danny Barrett to get rid of the ball because the Lions brought their linebackers up in the middle. The backs picked them up.
Holding. Calgary number 61. Second down, repeat.
And then you see what happened was that the Lions sent one of their defensive backs to try to get to Barrett, but Barrett again made a good read. And you see Willie Pless just getting caught up in all the wash there. And he's not really blitzing to get to the quarterback. He's blitzing to occupy the running back.
Two of them in that case. McVeigh and Cherry both worrying about Pless. Barrett for Crawford, and he just couldn't grab that one as Danny Barrett is really looking to beat the Lions outside. His strong arm allows him to try that, and the fact that Ken Watson is on one corner, normally a halfback, means that you're going to try to beat him there.
Well, sure you are. They're going to work on, because he's out of position, and they got Andrew Thomas and Watson spot at the defensive half. So obviously that's one area that they're going to see if they can exploit early in the game.
The league's leading punter, Brent Matic, sails one. Tony Hunter, the whiz, flag down, and that is usually the case on punt returns. There's an illegal block somewhere. 51-yard punt by Matic. The short return will be nullified as the Lions are penalized, and they are the most penalized team in the league.
So what I was going to say, David, that's one area that...
Illegal block. BC number 23. First down.
That's one area definitely that Bob Obilovich wants to improve on, and one area of concern, and he figures that that's something we have to address. Obviously, no coach is happy with that, and some notoriety, obviously, to being the most penalized team in the league. And they're not necessarily a chippy or a dirty team. It's just that a lot of times making physical mistakes.
Lions moved on the ground and through the air to a touchdown the first time they had the ball. They have to go farther this time from their 15-yard line. And Flutie's pass doesn't give Colbert a reasonable chance of catching that. With the headset sitting down, Jerry Keeling, part of our opening, the Calgary quarterback in '71, the Stamps' last Grey Cup year, now trying to beat these Stampeders as a member of Bob Obilovich's coaching staff in Vancouver. 3-2 is Bob Obilovich since taking over as the Lions coach. Second and 10. That ball was tipped at least once and maybe twice, and then Christensen's ankles were clipped as he dived for it.
The thing that surprises me so far is they really haven't tried to do much in the way of rolling Flutie out. He's standing in the pocket. We watch Jay Christensen once again trying to escape that bump and get inside and work again to that area. And you'll watch Flutie when he throws the ball. He's going to try to lead Christensen to the open area.
Martino at his goal line. Crawford and Pee Wee Smith 5 yards on either side of midfield, awaiting this BC punt. And it's a bad snap. Martino has to field it. Now he throws it away incomplete. If they call intentional grounding here, it would be interesting, from the end zone. But it was a safety till he threw it. Now it's a chance for a touchdown for Calgary, almost similar to the situation the Stampeders faced at the beginning of last week's game in Hamilton.
Well, the problems have been with the long snaps. They had Carl Coulter in there. They've taken him out and they put Wetmore in. They're trying to get some consistency on the snapping. Now this is really a rookie mistake. Take the ball, get down on the ground, give up a point or two, but don't give up the touchdown, and they might do that right here.
Carey on a draw to the 10 and close to the 5, which is first down yardage. He'll be right on the 5-yard line, and I think that might give it to him.
I wonder if you look at Coach Obilovich and he's looking to find Martino, who's probably hiding at the end of the bench behind one of those big defensive linemen. Offensive linemen, I mean.
Terry does not quite have a first down. So this is almost a free play down here. The Stampeders rather happy to make it second down. Barrett will make sure he doesn't get much more than he needs, though. They will, in fact, want to measure this for a first down. I think you'd take a good solid shot at a better play than that and hope that you can get into the end zone or as close to it as possible. If they get the first down, that's all they get.
Well, you know, Paul Wetmore's pretty upset with himself, and again, that's been, as I mentioned earlier, that's been one area that they've really been concerned with. And basically everything on special teams, when you have the ball, starts with the snap. You've got to get that most basic part of it right before you can do anything else.
First and goal from the 5. Everybody's out of there. Barrett could run here or throw. And it's caught for a touchdown by Marshall Toner.
Well, you live by the blitz or you die by the blitz. This time, Willie Pless trying to get to Danny Barrett. He knows there's no one in the backfield to pick him up. Now, can he get there before Danny Barrett can get rid of this ball? No, he doesn't. And you got to credit Danny Barrett for a very heads-up veteran play. He knows he's got to stand in there, deliver the ball as effectively as possible. He's going to get hammered. And the players on the Stampeders team really like Danny Barrett. They have a lot of respect for him. They play hard for him because they know he'll sell out for them, as evidenced right there.
Well, the only people who aren't happy with the start of this game are the defensive coaches, as Calgary's had the ball twice and scored twice. Stutter on the convert, but McLaughlin puts it through. Lions have had it once. They've scored. It's 10-7 Stampeders. 17 points already. We're midway through the first quarter. Marshall Toner with the Calgary touchdown. Lorenzo Graham has scored for the Lions.
Hey, Jane and Jennifer at home, how you doing? It's my brothers in Saskatoon.
A prepared speech from Marshall Toner. The difference in the game, Mark McLaughlin's opening 40-yard field goal. Graham is cut down by Dan Wicklum just ahead of the 30-yard line, so you can see already in this game that the Lions don't return kickoffs as well as the Stampeders do.
Well, that was a nice catch by Marshall Toner, stepping in front of the defensive back. Just barely has time to catch his breath, has to come back and set the ball down for the converts.
And McLaughlin missed a convert last week in Hamilton, which, if you think about it, had the Ticats scored in the final minute, they could have won by that one single point. Chris Skinner knows to take advantage of those blockers in front of him, and he is into first down territory at the 42.
Well, once again, Stampeders are so concerned with Doug Flutie, and he gave them fits the last time they played 2 weeks ago, is that Flutie will drop back, draw the rush upfield, and then it's almost like a running screen where he tries to break contain, and then it just dumps it off. Just one more way for him to use that rollout type of thing that he does so well in involving all the players on his team.
The initial spot of the ball gave Skinner a first down, then they replaced it and decided they'd have to measure, but it is, after all, a first down. Doug Flutie on the move is much more dangerous than Doug Flutie standing still, and it took a while for the Lions to design an offense that took advantage of that. Flutie just seems to be getting better, and it's too bad on BC's part that he's only got 2 more games left in this season. Graham near the 45. We'll check the Stampeders on defense. They are without one of their stalwarts in the secondary. The front 4 stays the same. The linebackers with Henry Smith, along with Joe Clausey and Matt Finley. Carl Anthony is the replacement on the left corner for Ron Hopkins, who should be back next week. A slight hamstring pull at the end of that game last week at Hamilton keeps him out of this one. It's BC Place Stadium. This is Dave Hodge with Nick Mestalla as Calgary leads 10-7 over the Lions. Flutie fully on the run, and he'll keep going. And Wally Buono said we want to make sure that if he runs up the middle and not to the side. Not that time did the Stampeders prevent Doug Flutie from using the sidelines so well.
That's right. Well, they want him to take some punishment if he's going to bail out of there and run. And Doug Flutie, as you said, is excellent using the sidelines and escaping the punishment. There's just a tremendous block down in here, which you don't see, unfortunately. But Jan Carinci coming in, and really, there it is right there. A good job of springing Flutie to getting him to the outside.
Penalty on the play as nothing doing on the running play for the Lions, and they are holding to boot. That's got to hurt when you hold, and the result is that the Stampeders are there anyway. Obviously not an effective hold.
Holding. BC number 67. First down repeated.
Stampeders will take the penalty despite the fact that they stuffed the play for no gain. Moving the ball back to BC territory at the 50. And speaking of going backwards, unless you live in Saskatchewan, don't forget to turn the clocks back tonight before you retire. Flutie's in trouble now, and they get a lick on him this time. Will Johnson, one of the top quarterback sackers in the CFL, eats up Doug Flutie.
Well, not only Will Johnson, but Walter Ballard also that time. And both ends of the Stampeders have been told that don't rush into your man, but try to rush upfield past your man, and then make your move so that it gives you a better chance to get to Flutie because you can see where he is. Don't get absorbed by those tall tackles of the BC Lions.
He's one behind Stuart Hill of Edmonton, and Hill, of course, is injured. Will Johnson one away from the league lead. Second and a lot for BC, and Flutie can't escape this time either, right at the line of scrimmage. So that vaunted 4-man rush again led by Will Johnson Hems in Doug Flutie.
It's funny how you wonder how quarterbacks can almost sense where that pressure is coming from, especially when they're looking one direction. And they have that innate ability to escape, or Walter Ballard that time, and step up inside. And if he's going to scramble, Wally Bono says that's where he wants him to go, up the field, so we get chances to take shots at him.
Perfect rush by Ballard and Johnson on both of the last two plays. Doug Flutie, here we go again, a little adventure for Martino. Pee-wee Smith taken down, so the Lions continue to have their problems snapping the ball back to the punter, but Martino got that one away and did it pretty well under the circumstances, 29 yards.
Well, with the rush that so far that Johnson and Ballard are getting, I wouldn't be surprised if next series you see the BC Lions start to sprint out Flutie a little bit more to escape the rush. Now, as you said, this is becoming an adventure every time, and punters have to be good athletes, too, to be able to field that ball almost like a shortstop in baseball.
Stampeders began lining up their backs as flankers, and they brought them in, and McVeigh slips outside for 2 or 3 yards. Well, you're going to see, I think the running plays that the Stampeders are going to employ is going to be a lot of that quick hitting stuff, trying to run directly at Willie Pless, who's not the biggest linebacker in the world, and also at Doug Landry, because if you try to run away from Landry, he inevitably seems to make the play somehow. Any long developing plays, he's in on them. Try to get the quick hitting stuff right at him. McVeigh gained 2, 2nd and 8 from the 43. Barrett buys some time with a short roll, throws it downfield for Beals, and he caught it. Sean Beals, what a nice catch, running backwards and running hard backwards. And he had to look over a defender to see the ball and then to make that catch. What a catch by Beals.
It was an excellent catch, Dave, and probably one of the toughest catches that a receiver will have to make. It all starts, of course, with Barrett being able to escape, contain, and getting out there and basically throwing that ball on a line. He didn't have to throw that across the field or anything. It's just throwing it straight on a line down the field. And as you said, that Beals, tremendous concentration catching that ball.
It helped him that Anthony Drawhorn didn't know where it was, and Sean Beals makes quite a catch down at the 20-yard line. Barrett pumps and goes into the end zone, and a one-on-one battle is won by Derek Crawford.
Well, I think as we mentioned earlier, David, you knew that that's where they were going to go. They're going to work on Ken Watson, because when you're a defensive half, you can be a little bit more aggressive. And Watson is a big guy, 6'1", 200 pounds. Putting him out there, regardless of he could be working there all week in practice or he's played in there before, this week he's really out of position. And what Crawford does an effective job of doing is leaning in to Watson and actually just pushing him away and pushing off of him and getting separation.
It's almost as though Crawford wanted Watson to think that they were running where the ball was going, and at the last minute, Crawford, who knew where it was going, veered off and caught it. Watson a little too concerned about staying with Crawford and not reacting to the ball.
And the other half of this, of course, as we mentioned earlier, that Danny Barrett shows excellent toughness, knowing that he's going to take a shot, and he did from Dietrich Wise that time. It just hung in there. Now, he doesn't want to take too many of those, obviously.
Son, JD, we bringing this one home for you, too. And Calgary.
Especially those ones where you take them under the chin like that. But if he can hang in there and get those big plays for them, they're going to put a lot of pressure on that BC secondary.
What Danny Barrett did last week in Hamilton and what he's doing so far tonight makes you think he's never been away, and he missed a lot of time with a broken ankle. Took his time coming back, which I think probably has helped him. But the Calgary offense, with all due respect to Terrence Jones and Rick Warman, works much better with Danny Barrett controlling it.
It does, David, because I think the players, as I mentioned earlier, they really respond to Danny Barrett. He is a leader. He's an emotional guy, gets them all fired up, and it helps that they like the guy. That's also important. It helps with your team chemistry.
Well, he's a great blend of experience, strong arm. He's got great scrambling ability, knows this game and this league. Speaking of experience, here's the guy who can write the book on it. And the others have been around as well.
That is an incredible statistic there, that 54 years of experience among 5 guys obviously over 10 years per man on average. And the great thing about that is there's not going to be too many defensive stunts, looks, blitzes, things like that these guys haven't seen before. And you've got to feel good as a quarterback walking up behind that line. You know that these guys know what's going on out there. And there's the leader of the group.
Graham returning the kickoff for BC. There's a bad block by the Lions. From behind, which brings the flag. Well, Bob Obilovich looks at a yellow flag and wonders why it's necessary to do that.
Well, penalties on special teams, more than anything, a lot of times is just a lack of hustle. In other words, you've got to get going down the field to set yourself up for the block.
Illegal block. BC number 77. First down.
And it's Dan Wickham again, just tremendous hustle on his part. And again, if you can't make a block on a man, you better just stop letting him go, because you got a 50-50 chance that he might not make the play anyhow, and you've really hurt yourself in terms of field position.
Ken Whitney pushed him from behind. There was actually a line in front of Wickham who could have and should have made that block. Interception, touchdown, automatic, 6 points. David McCrary was inside the huddle, I guess. And how did Doug Flutie not see him?
It would appear that way. That's his 6th interception of the year, and first one for a touchdown. Now, what had happened was that Doug Flutie really just got fooled by the defense. He didn't know that David McCrary would be coming up and the under coverage, and they were actually, what they were doing was just doubling that receiver where Carl Anthony had him deep, and McCrary just reads Flutie's eyes and steps in front, and Doug Flutie can take credit for that one fully, I guess.
Oh, when McCrary dreams of interceptions for touchdowns, he dreams about the one he just scored. He couldn't plan it any better than that.
No, it was, again, it's just a matter of Doug Flutie not really reading the defense, and that's part of the cat and mouse game that teams will do. They're going to line up and give you one look and hope you think that it's one thing you're seeing, and then on the snap of the ball, they're going to change it. And they walked right into it. It was just a great job of calling the right defense against that play.
For BC fans wishing to see Major Harris, there is the possibility that Bob Obilovich will use this situation to give Harris some playing time, thinking all along that Flutie will go back into the game. But Obilovich's view on what Harris should and shouldn't do late in the season is that it's no use putting Major Harris into a game late that has been decided one way or another. The experience is to mean anything for the rookie from West Virginia. The game has to be on the line, or at least there has to be lots of time left in it to make his play meaningful. So we'll see what happens when the Lions scrimmage the ball again, as they'll do after Graham's kickoff return, and Lorenzo Graham is down, and so is the flag.
I don't think they've had a kickoff return where they haven't had a penalty.
That's part of Calgary's success, too. They don't often get called for penalties on kick returns.
Major foul, face mask, Calgary, first down.
Except when they're covering them and they grab the face mask, that is.
Well, it's important to see how Flutie responds now. You know, he knows it. He knows that last pass is on him. Let's see how he comes back and responds. He's got a lot better field position, so that's one less worry for him.
The Lions move from the Calgary 52-yard line. Here come those defensive ends again. Flutie finds Graham in the flat, and Lorenzo Graham will have 5 yards.
Look, Lorenzo Graham has excellent hands. He had 44 receptions coming into this game, and a lot of them are that small dump pass type of variety of things, and that one there, again, give him the ball, put him in a one-on-one situation, and if he can make the first guy miss, he may be off to the races.
2nd and 5. Here come the Stampeders. Flutie runs away from the strength of the blitz. Now just throws it up to nobody, and they got to throw a flag there. The Stampeders are looking for it, and it doesn't appear. There wasn't a receiver within, I would say, 30 yards of that ball.
Well, you're right, David. And David McCrary, who had the interception for the touchdown this time, comes on a halfback blitz, and he comes to the side where Flutie's trying to roll out. Now he doesn't have enough, can't buy enough time here to find an open receiver. He figures, I'm just going to bail out and get rid of the ball, and he's lucky he didn't get called.
Well, it's a good play if you get away with it. Paul Wetmore is not snapping this one. It's Carl Calder instead. Flutie doesn't throw that ball. He gets sacked there, so there's not much risk in firing it when he knows it can't be intercepted either. And he bought himself some yardage because the flag didn't come. Now they go direct snap and don't get the first down. That snap was perfect that time. Nothing else was, though.
Well, it was, and they were in a good position in the field to attempt to do something like that. And maybe it makes you wonder that, you know, maybe Coach Abilovich is so nervous about his long snap is that anything can be better than what we witnessed so far, and we'll just take a chance and see what happens. And you figure in this situation with that field position, it's really not a bad gamble, because if you don't make it, you hope that your defense, you know, can hold them.
Direct snap to Ryan Hansen, who is a fullback. Stampeders were waiting for it and stopped it. Barrett again looking way downfield. They connect again. And the strength of Pee Wee Smith, who is a designated import but obviously a threat unto himself, has the Stampeders in scoring territory again, and right back to that same area that the Stampeders are probing.
Well, that's it, David. Barrett had excellent time from his offensive line. Again, the longer they can hold him out, the more of these types of things can happen. And again, Ken Watson, you know, he knows that he's in for it. He knew going into this game that they're going to come after him. And you see Barrett, you know, basically untouched that time, going to his wideouts a lot, going to his wideouts almost, you know, on every series, and having a lot of success.
That one bounces at the goal line as Barrett was harassed a bit. There's his reaction as the first quarter ends, and a good one it was for Barrett of the Stampeders. Not so for the Lions, as Calgary leads by 17 points after 15 minutes. The second quarter opens with Calgary's second down play from the 12-yard line. Stampeders up by 17, looking to go ahead by 20 or more. Field goal will put them up by 20, a touchdown by 24. Crawford and Pitts split as the wide receivers. They'll throw it up for Alan Pitts, and he goes up and catches the ball for a touchdown.
Well, you can see those players are pretty excited out there, and the Stampeders definitely in this game, unlike 2 weeks ago, have come out just with a heck of a lot more emotion. They're obviously not taking the BC Lions for granted. And I guess Norm Jefferson might have had a bit of an argument there that Pitts pushed off to put himself in better position to make that catch. But
perfect position. He's in the air, Jefferson is on the ground, and Jefferson doesn't touch him until Pitts lands with the football.
Alan Pitts has just really had a tremendous year as a rookie. I guess you'd have to say a dream year. And he's a big, tall guy at 6'4", and this is probably who you want in this type of a situation where you lay the ball up, there's only 4 or 5 yards to go. You see Danny Barrett, again, knowing exactly, you can see he's looking that way right from the snap. Pitch and catch.
I think Pitts wanted to push off, but he reached out and Jefferson wasn't close enough to him. Maybe got a touch of his back, but Alan Pitts was just all by himself when that ball came down, and Danny Barrett has thrown 3 touchdown passes already. You know, the question I asked you at the start, because Calgary doesn't absolutely have to win this game to finish in first place, might the Stampeders relax? And Wally Buono said first place means one thing, beating the BC Lions means another. The Stampeders didn't feel very good about the game 2 weeks ago when a last place team came into McMahon Stadium and won by 6 points. They want to beat BC to get revenge for that.
Calgary number 13.
and it seems like that tonight.
Well, it does. They were embarrassed. There's no doubt about it. I said perhaps they took the Lions a little bit lightly, but these are certainly not the same BC Lions that started the season. They're a much improved team, and Calgary again came in here, I think, realizing that let's win this game, get the first place when we got the opportunity to win first place, rather than leaving it up to some other team to beat somebody else for us, or putting more pressure on us by forcing us to win next week against the Eskimos.
I'll correct myself. It was an 8-point win for BC at Calgary 2 weeks ago, 33-25, helped by a big first quarter. No bigger than what Calgary's had tonight. A 24-7 lead after one quarter, now 31-7. And here's what the Stampeders have done with the ball. They've scored 4 of 5 times. And the Lions' third down plays haven't helped. A bad snap to Martino in the end zone, and then the direct snap to Ryan Hansen that didn't work.
Hey, Allison, everybody in Calgary, Joshua, love you both.
And the best part of Calgary's offense this season, they don't have a whole lot of yards. In fact, they're 8th total offense in the league, but their ability to convert their chances and to make the best use of the field position that their special teams gives them, what they've done tonight. Graham is having a career returning kickoffs tonight, so many of them as he fielded, and this is his best one for yardage coming back as Graham puts the Lions into Calgary territory.
Didn't see any flags down that time either.
Flutie remains the BC quarterback. The one interception was 6 points the other way. Play action gives Flutie some time over the middle with a good catch by Tony Dennis to the 30-yard line.
Well, maybe that's something that, you know, coming out on the first down and throwing the ball and getting a completion, and maybe this will be an opportunity now for the Lions to generate something here and get a little bit of consistency. And what helped that time was that play action fake to the running back holds those linebackers a bit and allows Tony Dennis to come to the open area with no underneath coverage. Stu Laird he's had a history, I think, of knee problems in his career, and the other guy, it looks like Greg Peterson, is hurt on the field, and they're going to really miss him because he leads the league as far in safeties, I guess, with 5 interceptions. So he's really, you know, a key to that secondary for the Stampeders.
Calgary leads 31-7, and if the Stampeders win tonight, the Edmonton Eskimos will have to win tomorrow at home against Hamilton to keep their first place hopes alive. The Stampeders could clinch first place this weekend by winning here and having some help from the Ticats tomorrow, and we'll be there at Commonwealth Stadium to bring that game to you on the Canadian Football Network. I don't think Bob Obilovich expected this tonight. He had every reason to believe his Lions would come out and play as they've done the last 2 weeks. But right now they're down 24 points. The saving grace is there's a whole lot of time left. It's a long way back for the Lions, but they've got a lot of time to do it. First down at the Calgary 30-yard line. Darcy Kopp is in for the injured Greg Peterson. Graham is stopped for no gain, maybe a loss of a yard.
They're really trying to work that short side running game, and part of that, I think, is because Walter Ballard, Stampeder defensive end, is really lining up awful wide to get a better rush angle at Flutie, so it stands to reason he's creating a natural running lane there.
Flutie is on the move. Now back. Nope. The other way, and he throws it up, and incomplete. Might have just been trying to throw that one away, too. Christensen, the intended receiver, third down. And it'll be Tony Martino as they call it a muscle spasm in Greg Peterson's neck. Martino was on to try for 3 BC points from 37 yards out. Every kick he makes this year might determine what happens next season to Tony Martino. Louis Pasaglia's future is in some doubt. Martino trying to prove himself. Big strong leg as he shows there. 3 points for the Lions. 31-10 now for Calgary. November the 25th, the Grey Cup game will be played here at BC Place Stadium, and spokesman for the Grey Cup Festival Committee here is with us, Al Wilson. All you have to do is promise that this Grey Cup will be better than the last one here in '87, which was a dandy, but I'm sure you're going to tell everybody that you can do it.
Oh, I don't know about it being a better Grey Cup, but I know my boys aren't going to be in it. That's the only problem we got going right now. But we'd like to welcome everybody to Vancouver, and we hope we put on a hell of a show for them.
Tell the folks across the country just why they should come here and watch this one.
Well, there's this gala of events that are going to happen all week long. We start in the Commodore with the Rhythm Blues Band. We have Miss Grey Cup at the Hyatt Regency, and we're bringing in Paul Revere and the Raiders, and then we finish it up with the Grey Cup dinner at the Pan Pacific. So, and the Grey Cup game at the end.
I imagine it's been a lot of work for you with the organization and everything. Have you enjoyed this?
It's good. There's a lot of volunteers. There's over 400 volunteers that are working behind the scenes. There'll be 1,500 of us before it's over. We're doing an Air BC tour of the province from Kamloops, Vernon, Prince George, Victoria, to try and promote the game and bring up the interest and awareness level.
Can you tell us how to snap a ball properly? A lot of guys have been having trouble with that this year.
I didn't make Louis bend down that many times. My men weren't that very fast, but they got there on time.
Al Wilson, good luck to you and everybody connected with the Grey Cup on the 25th of November. It'll be a great show. Here are the Stamps once again in good field position because of a kickoff.
Well, what the Stampeders have done tonight really has gotten off to a pretty good start, and that was important for them because they are not really an explosive offense. In fact, neither of these teams are, and in a situation like that, if they get behind a lot of points early, it's very difficult for them to come back and score them in bunches.
Well, let's see if they go right back to work on Ken Watson and/or Andrew Thomas. They pump long. Crawford against Watson, and he catches it for a touchdown. Oh, it's a nightmare for Ken Watson on the corner.
I think nightmare is putting it mildly, David. Danny Barrett has made up his mind that this is where I'm going to go. That fake there, just trying to freeze those defensive backs, allowing that receiver to make one move and make a second move to free himself. Now, Watson actually does a pretty good job of not going for that first fake, going downfield, but Crawford just does a better job of keeping his concentration through the contact and receiving the ball.
Well, get out the record book. We're having one of those games. 38-10 with almost 12 minutes left in the half. Molson and CFN are bringing you Canadian football. .38 points for the Calgary Stampeders already. That's almost a touchdown better than their per game average. Here's Eric Starr fumbling the ball. Nobody's got it yet. Stampeders have it now. At the 50-yard line, they can try for more points.
Well, once again, aggressive special teams play creates opportunities. This is one fellow that Bobo Bilovich wanted to get into the game early. He wanted to get him in a slot back position. He liked the fact that he has good athletic ability and good speed. And that trying to jump over top of the pile there, I don't know if that's really what you want to do in that instance. He did have, I thought, pretty good hold on the ball, and Mark Singer just gets in there and puts a helmet on his arm and pops it free.
So in spite of the Lions' efforts, the turnovers are hurting them. And that was second effort that wasn't necessary. Just dove right into tackler Mark Singer and coughed up the ball. McVeigh goes straight ahead. He takes a heck of a pop from Andrew Thomas, but gets a first down at the 40-yard line.
This ball. I trust you. How Bruce? Don't mind me. We balling, baby. We balling. I haven't got the end zone yet, but
at this rate, he will.
Well, yeah, you got to feel. I feel bad for that guy right there, because in a situation like that, your confidence is so shaken. Now, you know, and more than likely he's going to really play those receivers off quite a bit and giving them a lot of room to work underneath.
Well, Barrett will go the other way just for variety. Pitts, again, working on Norm Jefferson, and Alan Pitts' height couldn't help him on that occasion.
Well, the interesting thing is 2 weeks ago when Rick Warman was quarterbacking, in some respects, his receivers didn't help him out very much. They dropped a lot of passes that they should have had. But tonight, Danny Barrett's been getting great support from his receivers. They've been making a lot of tough catches with bumping and in traffic, and it's makes all the difference in the world.
And it might be like an alarm clock going off. If we ever throw one down the middle, the slot backs don't get a lot of work when he can fire away to the wide receivers like he has been. Crawford cut inside on Watson this time, and the ball was thrown behind him. So the Stampeders will send Mark McLaughlin out again. He opened the scoring in this game with a 40-yard field goal. This will be a 47-yard attempt. The holder is Marshall Toner, who caught Danny Barrett's first touchdown pass, the first of 4 in this game. 47 yards, and McLaughlin puts it long enough and wide, and the Lions will decide to give up 1 point. .9:54 to go, first half. The Stampeders have added 1 to their lead, which is now 39-10. I guess it's a minor victory for the Lions to hold the Stampeders to 1 point. BC scrimmages the ball where it was snapped from McLaughlin's wide field goal at their 40-yard line. Flutie forced to run up the middle, now cuts outside and takes one of those hits that the Stampeders want to be able to deliver. And Flutie is still on the ground.
Well, that's what Wally Buono was talking about. If he's going to scramble, force him to scramble up the field where we get shots on him. What happens is he actually has, as he's getting tackled, the defender's weight is on top of him, and he's actually driven into the ground almost like a pile driver effect. I wouldn't be surprised if it's his shoulder.
Flutie is adept at avoiding those hits when he can get to the sidelines and use the sidelines effectively. But up the middle, if you're going to run, chances are you will get hit.
Well, the Stampeders have had a good pass rush all night, and there you see it right there where he got his head kind of bent over, and as he rolls over top of it, obviously you can see him, he's in a lot of pain. But it all starts with that pass rush. The Stampeders have had a good pass rush, really haven't given Flutie much time to look around and pick out a receiver. And Joe Paopao consequently will be in, I guess.
Well, there'll be some fans who want to see Major Harris instead of Paopao. Bob Obilovich is not paid to please them, not in this regard anyway. He has to use the quarterback that he thinks can best bring the Lions back into this game, and that's Joe Paopao.
Well, Joe's a veteran, and the fellas in the huddle right now, they have a lot of confidence in him. And one thing that's different, obviously, is he can't scramble like Flutie can, but he's very effective at throwing those quick passes and getting rid of the ball and avoiding the heat in that way rather than running around.
Graham thought he might have been looking to throw the ball, but he aiming for the first down, which he gets past the 50-yard line.
Well, Ren, you run to the wide field like that, you can go laterally an awful long way, and really you don't think you necessarily are picking up the necessary yardage. But because the field is so wide, when you turn it up, you realize when you get up that you do have the first down.
He's been bothered by something similar to this earlier in the season, and I wonder whether that might be a recurrence of the rib injury, which made it too painful for him to throw a ball. Powell lofts a short screen to Hansen. He's taken down after a couple of yards.
Well, that type of thing, because they've got such a large lead right now, that's the type of thing that the Stampeders will give the Lions all night. They're not overly concerned being beat in that regard. They just don't want to give up the big play.
Pain evident in Flutie's face. Second down and 8. Joe Powell's BC Lions. From the shotgun, Powell's going to face a rush. Throws it up. Christensen by himself for the first down at the 30-yard line.
Well, that time, the halfback, Darryl Hall, came on a blitz, which automatically means that Jay Christensen, there's no inside help for Junior Thurman. So Joe reads the blitz coming. He throws it right up the field, leading Christensen to the open area. It's a good read by Christensen and Powell working in sync that time.
Skinner, and he's turned back after a couple of yards. Boy, the top Canadian in the CFL West will be Jay Christensen of BC, Kent Warnock of Calgary, Ray Elgard of Saskatchewan, or Blake Marshall of Edmonton. That's a tough choice. You can pick any of those and not have to apologize for it.
No, any coach in the league would love to have that group on his team.
Powell, the receiver, Dennis, didn't know it was there. It is intercepted. Well, they say it was out of bounds. One official was hit by the man who caught the ball, and another official came and ruled him out of bounds. I thought he made the catch inbound. But let's see if we can see it.
Well, obviously, Wally Buono did too. Darryl Hall coming up. Well, again, I thought it was interception, and he's a nominee for Rookie of the Year. And he's really done an excellent job at Wally Buono feels of being very consistent at his position. Because a lot of people wondering, how come Alan Pitts, with the year that he's had, wasn't the rookie nominee for the Stampeders? But overall, Wally Buono feels that Hall had a much more consistent year against some pretty tough slot backs in this league.
36-yard field goal by Martino is good, and we repeat that Darryl Hall came down with his toe out of bounds, so it was not an interception. The Molson MVP will be selected following the game, and no, this isn't a preview of that tonight, or it may be. But last Sunday, Danny Barrett was the MVP of Calgary's 48-42 victory in Hamilton, and he's a candidate to be picked again. 6:14 left first half, and Doug Flutie won't be back until at least the third quarter. If then, they'll take a long look at him at the half and see if he can return. Chances are that his shake of the head is the answer to that question. Probably not. It's a long way back if the Lions are going to score field goals and no touchdowns, but Martino can only get what he can kick, and he is making the field goal. Lions cover this kick rather well and force the Stampeders to cough it up. Calgary falls on it, but that's as ineffective a kickoff return as the Stampeders have had in a long time.
Just, again, very effective hustle down the field by the cover team. If you can do that and force him to turn it up sooner than he wants, then you've got a good chance to limit that return.
The last time I saw 4 touchdown passes thrown by a quarterback in one half, it was Ricky Foggy in Toronto, and he wound up challenging the league record of 8. Finished with 7. Well, here's Barrett with 4 1/2 of football, and there's still more time left in the second quarter. Ball batted down at the line of scrimmage as that play is not working for Calgary.
A couple times they've tried that, it hasn't worked, and I think the most effective use of that play was when Danny Barrett faked it and then threw for that touchdown in the first quarter.
Crawford is in the game. He has beaten Ken Watson for 2 touchdown passes. Now the play is being changed by Danny Barrett. He should have stuck with the first one. A sack for the Lions as they finally get to Barrett, and the Lions congratulate themselves for that.
Probably the most inconsistent part of the BC defense this year has really been their lack of a consistent pass rush. Dietrich Wise gets to Barrett this time. That's his 2nd sack of the year, and he's a rookie nominee for the BC Lions. And Bob Bilovich actually feels the group that he's got right now on that line, he could go to training camp with and start the season with next year.
Nice punt by Matic. There's a flag down, and there seemed to be some confusion in the substitution on the punt. Boy, Matic, he wishes there were dome stadiums all over the league, because under these conditions, it seems like he can sail them 50 yards every time. 51 yards again. They're going to call the Lions for being offside, and the Stampeders might want to decline this. Yep. Can't get a better punt than that, or you can't ask for a better one.
The only guys that aren't happy with those types of punts are those first 2 down the field, which are what they call the contained men.
Offside. BC. Decline.
Offside penalty against the Lions.
Because normally they're down the field, good 10 yards ahead of the rest of the other wave of the Stampeders. That puts a lot of pressure on them to force that returner up the field to where they've got help.
Joe Powell calling the signals for the injured Doug Flutie. Christensen couldn't get there. At least decided he couldn't. He was wide open, though, and the ball landed about 5 yards over his head. Now, suddenly, Joe Powell is getting much more time to throw the ball than Doug Flutie did.
That's interesting observation, because I think more than anything is that the offensive linemen realize Joe Powell doesn't have the mobility of a Doug Flutie, so we have to work extra hard to keep those guys off him. The other thing is, too, they know where Joe Powell is all the time. They can, almost like eyes in the back of their head, realize that he's going to be back behind us, not running around where we don't know where he necessarily might be.
And might the Stampeders, because of that, be rushing differently and maybe not quite as aggressively. That ball was thrown with a flag attached to the play. Jan Carinci was complaining on the Lions' part. And it looks as though it's, well, the Stampeders are clapping their hands.
Forward pass interference. Calgary number 3.
I don't know why.
First down.
Maybe trying to influence the referee's decision.
McCrary is penalized. Lions have the ball at the 50-yard line of the Stampeders. And with that rush coming, Powell hands on a draw to Lorenzo Graham, who gets to the 45 and maybe a yard past it. 5.5-yard gain on the play.
Well, we alluded to earlier that the Stampeders gave up a lot of yards on defense versus the running attack, but I don't think that's a big concern right now when they're up by so many points.
Darrell Hall was all over the back of the receiver, Jay Christensen, and Christensen got the flag. I guess when you get up and look and there's a flag in your lap, you know that they called a penalty.
Forward pass interference. Calgary number 7. First down.
You see Joe Powell really trying to work that inside passing game, and he seems to feel that Jay Christensen is a man right now that's going to get open. especially inside where there's no help.
Oh, Pow got rid of that just in time, and Skinner broke a tackle. Just walked out of the grasp of Junior Thurman.
Joe Paw takes a pretty good shot here, and he knows he can feel that Will Johnson coming. He can't see him, but he can hear him breathing, and he knows he's going to get hit when he releases.
His last name just got lengthened to Pow, and that one. That one is tipped, available for either team, and incomplete.
You see Paw when he's come in now. He seems to be throwing a lot more to the inside receivers right now than Doug Flutie did, and they're trying to do a lot of crossing patterns and freeing up somebody, and he's just trying to pick whoever's open.
Nobody back there to protect him. The Stampeders rush with 4. Paw throws it up. Too high, and a heck of a hit taken by Carinci, who amazingly gets right up. But the first couple of breaths are tough to draw, I think.
Well, especially when you get hit on the side of the head like that in the temple. That's really a vulnerable area. I'll guarantee you, when you get hit there, you see scars. And the receiver's always very vulnerable anytime he's up in the air like that. He can take a shot in the ribs and really not do much to protect himself.
Tony Martino's earning his money as he tries another field goal. 2 for 2 so far, this from 31 yards out. He's got another one. With 3:05 left, the Lions have scored the last 2 times they've had the ball, but the Stampeders have a whole lot more points before that. 3:05 left in a high-scoring first half, and the scoring may not be over with 3:05 to go. Pee-wee Smith once again. He fumbled the last time, but the Stampeders were able to recover it. And this time, Smith goes out of bounds with the ball, 43-yard line. A graduate of the University of Miami, Florida, the Hurricanes, the NCAA champions, and Danny Barrett comes back looking for a 5th touchdown pass in this first half.
Danny Barrett, when he came in the CFL, really started off, I thought, slowly. It took him a few years to come around, and it appears that he's really found a home here.
McVay went one way, then another, and got to the 49, gaining about 6.
Andy McVay made a good read that time, was going to take it to the outside, saw that he had a hole right up the middle, and just changed direction and took it right up the field.
So you got to see the non-stack side and go red. Okay,
the run hasn't played much of a part in Calgary's big lead. They haven't had to run the ball. They've had such success throwing it. Barrett throws it low for Crawford, and they'll have to punt on 3rd down, so the Stampeders sputtering a bit as the first half comes to an end. They're allowed to do that, I guess, when they get 39 points on the board. That's easy. Our statistician David Moyer figured that out. 2 punts, each for 51 yards, a 51-yard average. A reverse now to Norm Jefferson, and he'll do his own reverse, coming back the other way, down about the 23-yard line. Here's what you've missed, and we'll try to get it all in. Mark McLaughlin, a field goal of 40 yards. Then the Lions led for a while on an 11-yard touchdown run by Lorenzo Graham. The Stampeders, after a bad snap to punter Tony Martino of the Lions, scored a touchdown to Marshall Toner, one to Derek Crawford as they started working on Ken Watson at the corner. McCrary intercepted a Flutie pass. Alan Pitts in the second quarter caught one from Barrett. Martino had a field goal and will 38-10 with Crawford, and then there's been some kicking points. It all adds up to 39-16 at this point, as Chris Skinner takes the screen and uses blockers to go to the 35 for what looks like a first down. We talked earlier about Kent Warnock and how he's a double nominee, and really a guy that
has just blossomed, and he tips that ball a little bit, but not quite enough to stop the play. Just really an effective pass rusher, and I think he's one of the premier defensive tackles in the league right now.
And you might have heard the Stampeders yelling draw.
And Warnock once again making a big play. Wally Buono likes him. He says he's probably my nastiest player on the team, and I like that.
Wide, Walter, wide! Use your hands and your feet. Let's go.
Less than 2 minutes to go now as the Lions will line up in a shotgun formation. Stampeders will blitz as Pow falls on the ball. There are flags all over the place. Did they jump offside? Or did they force the Lions to move too soon?
Procedure, BC number 66.
The latter the case, and so it's a decline penalty and a punt situation for BC with 1:44 to go.
Those offensive linemen get antsy. They realize that a blitz is coming, and they obviously want to get a jump on the snap. The Stampeders all they're trying to do is just time up the blitz so that when the quarterback calls for the ball, they're running full speed ahead. Jim Mills getting a little eager.
Join the suspense now as the ball has to be snapped back to Tony Martino. Perfect. Pee-wee Smith starts upfield and still in bounds. Finally shoved out, or actually steps out. But a good return by Smith. Sets the Stampeders up to score again.
As we mentioned earlier, Carl Coulter, the rookie, is back in snapping, and I think he was pretty despondent that he had lost his job to Paul Wetmore, and he felt that this is something that he really had to work on. The other thing is, too, Wetmore, you would think, being a linebacker, could get down and probably give you better coverage, but not in that case.
Andrew Thomas, if anybody doubts his hitting ability, just showed it there. A one-time draft choice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who didn't want to play there, was traded ultimately to Toronto and then on to BC, and Andrew Thomas arrives with that hit. Played at the University of Massachusetts, but hasn't played football for almost 2 full years. Blitz from the Lions. Barrett downfield and throws an interception to Rick Ryan. Ryan is out of bounds with under a minute to go as the Stampeders' scoring drive is blunted by their first turnover of the game.
Danny Barrett, when he started off the game, really seemed to be on the money, and since then you've seen him bounce a couple, and he had lots of time to throw the ball. It's all on him. He just overthrew it that time, and maybe he has to fine-tune that throwing motion right now, but I know he's not happy about that. He's virtually untouched there.
The Lions will hurry up and try to add to their total of 16 points. Stampeders jump. They'll claim they were drawn. Looks like it's going to be offside this time on Calgary.
Offside. Calgary number 74. Still first up.
Joe Paw knows that they're pretty antsy to get after him, so he's just going to change up that voice inflection and get an easy 5 yards.
Paw overthrows Jay Christensen. And Paw took a hit for his efforts that time.
He certainly did. And Joe's actually a lot bigger quarterback than Doug Flutie and a little sturdier, so he could take more punishment. That's certainly not the thing that you want to have happen too often. And my man Kent Warnock in there again. He's just a difficult man to keep out there. They may have to start double teaming him.
Second down from the 49-yard line with 52 seconds to go. Come after Paw, throws it quickly, and it's caught by Darryl Colbert, his first catch of the game, and it's a first down for the Lions. We're in the final minute of the first half. The Calgary Stampeders trying to clinch second place in the West and stay in first place are leading 39-16. This is Dave Hodge with Nick Bastaya on the Canadian Football Network. 47 seconds left in the second quarter. Darryl Hall turned. There's a flag down on that one. He was covering Jay Christensen. Came off the receiver to the ball and very nearly intercepted it. And I believe might have pushed Christensen to get where he was going.
Forward pass interference. Calgary number 7. First down.
Well, as we've seen earlier in the game, Jay Christensen is really trying to work hard to get inside where Joe Paopao can get him the ball. And obviously Darryl Hall knows that that's where he's most dangerous, and he's going to try to force him to go to the outside, make it a tougher throw.
Lots of time, 44 seconds, and the Lions have 41 yards to go. Graham to the 35-yard line, and again it looked as though he might have been thinking about a pass. Carried the ball as if he wanted to do something with it other than run with it, but saw the room and ran.
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, again, take advantage of the fact that Walter Ballard and Will Johnson rush hard upfield and thereby creating a running seam off tackle.
Hunter with the catch. Did he hold it? No. Incomplete pass. Tony Hunter did not come down with possession of that ball. And he's happy that's the ruling. Otherwise, the Stampeders would have recovered a fumble.
As Bob Obilovich told us earlier, he feels that he's got the players that he can go into training camp with, but every game for them right now and every play for them right now for the players is really an evaluation process for next year. And where do we need help? Where do we feel we have to fill in some holes in our squad?
Martino from 42 yards out as he tries for his 4th consecutive field goal. This one is no good. And the Stampeders, with such little time left, will come out and just make sure it's not a single point. They have 21 seconds to run off the clock, and that should be it for the first half. A great one for Wally Buono's Calgary Stampeders, though they have been in a bit of a lull the last few minutes.
Well, they came out with a lot more emotion than they did 2 weeks ago, and it showed in that first quarter performance. Now they've kind of settled down into the flow of the game, and they are struggling a little bit more. And Danny Barrett has had some probably mechanical problems throwing the ball, either underthrowing it or overthrowing it. But when you've got it, when you're playing with this kind of a lead, you can do some different things now. Maybe run the ball a little bit more.
I asked Wally Buono about the slow starts that the Stampeders have had this season and what he tries to do to get them to play better in the first quarter. And his answer is very revealing about Wally Buono, the coach. He said, "I've tried everything except yelling at them." A lot of coaches do that first, but it's something that Buono does not believe in, and that was his answer.
Well, I guess
the only thing he hasn't done is yell at his players.
Sorry, Dave. I guess as a former player, he wants to treat his players the same way that he feels he wanted to be treated. Now, with Bob Obilovich and obviously not looking very happy, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in there and yells at his players, because after taking 2 forward steps tonight, they're definitely taking a backward step, and he's very unhappy about that, I'm sure.
Barrett has to fall down right where he gets that ball. He has nowhere to go in reverse. 18 seconds on the clock, and he's got 20 seconds to put this one into play. So again, our keen mathematical minds tell us that the half is basically over after this ball is snapped to Danny Barrett. That'll do it for the first half, which has seen the Stampeders build a lead of 39-16 as Danny Barrett fires 4 touchdown passes for Calgary.
Sunday on the Canadian Football Network when Paulus Baldiston and the Hamilton Tiger Cats pay a return visit to Edmonton. The Ticats beat the Eskimos in Hamilton. Tracy Ham and company will look to get even. So be with us Sunday for Hamilton and Edmonton on the Canadian Football Network.
At the rate the Calgary Stampeders are going tonight, the Eskimos will have to win that game tomorrow to keep alive their first place hopes in the West. Sid Halder was the first commissioner of the CFL. A measure of the man was that when he left the office in 1966, he went straight to the Hall of Fame. Sid Halder left us earlier this week at the age of 85. G. Sidney Halder is best remembered as one of two men, the other being the weatherman, who turned the 1962 Grey Cup at Toronto into a two-day affair. It's a decision he never regretted.
That wasn't a difficult decision. Everybody thinks that's the most difficult decision. There's no difficulty at all. For a number of years, when we had Grey Cups in Vancouver, I always anticipated the chance of fog rising, and I got the teams together the day before the game, at least the officials and the manager and coaches of the teams, and I told them what would happen, and I used that same plan in Toronto. I hadn't on the Saturday morning or the Friday morning. We had no thought of fog, and it wasn't mentioned. But Friday afternoon, they told us there was a good chance of fog, and I just used the plan that I'd always used, always indicated I would use in Vancouver if a fog interfered with the game.
Halter's years as CFL commissioner, 1958 through 66, were glory days for the CFL, and especially for Bud Grant's Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Ironically, the Winnipeg Football Club had as one of its founders G. Sidney Halder. His other accomplishments were many.
One of the best things I did was get the officiating to a status that was accepted. And I got the clubs together, and so that eventually they had an interlocking schedule and had the one man looking after everything for them.
The Calgary Stampeders trying to put some pressure on the Edmonton Eskimos with a win tonight in BC, and they have a pretty good lead at halftime, 23 points. The Eskimos will be home tomorrow afternoon against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and we'll have that game for you. Hamilton coach Dave Beckman trying to repeat his first CFL victory, which was over the Eskimos.
What we have to do to beat Edmonton is simply the same thing we did last time we beat them. We got to come and play sound football in all three areas. We have to play strong defense. We have to play good special teams in all areas. They have Gizmo back, and that puts another added dimension on them. And we also have to throw and catch the ball, and we have to establish some type of run, which no one has really done on the Edmonton Eskimos.
I think we ran for 200 and, if I remember correctly, 229 yards, and we threw for almost 300 yards. So, you know, we had a 500-yard game. You know, it was one of those things that you want to win, but you just couldn't get it done. It's very difficult to tackle or sack Kerrigan because everything he throws quickly. And so the two things we have to do is our receivers have to, their receivers have to be challenged by our DBs. So we have to challenge them, and well, we use the term, make him reload. In other words, he wants to throw, and he's got to pull the ball back and then throw it again. And if we do that, we'll get some sacks.
When the Edmonton Eskimos are going to be the same team they've been year in and year out, and anybody that takes them lightly or anybody that takes them as a pushover is in for a good drubbing, and you can mark that on a wall.
Randy Ambrosi back to strengthen the Edmonton offensive line. Leroy Blue be the rush end in place of the injured Stu Hill. Hamilton does not have Derek McAdoo, and the Eskimos, of course, have a lot of problems that they'll try to solve.
CFL Priority Courier Player of the Week. The offensive player for week number 15 is Hamilton's Mike Kerrigan. The Tiger Cats clawed their way to a crucial 37-33 win over the Ottawa Rough Riders, led by a gritty performance from quarterback Mike Kerrigan. He completed 26 of 41 passes for 411 yards and 4 TDs, including the game winner to Earl Winfield with 8 seconds to play. Mike Kerrigan, CFL Priority Courier Offensive Player of the Week.
Graham again, and he'll walk into the end zone. Touchdown. Should have made that block. Interception, touchdown, automatic, 6 points. They'll throw it up for Alan Pitts, and he goes up and catches the ball for a touchdown. Well, let's see if they go right back to work on Ken Watson and/or Andrew Thomas. They pump long. Crawford against Watson, and he catches it for a touchdown. You saw 2 of Danny Barrett's touchdown passes. There were 4, and also 4 BC turnovers. Net yardage, not much of an edge for Calgary, but a huge advantage on the scoreboard, 23 points. It's important for the BC Lions to score first in the second half. They scored last in the first half with a couple of Tony Martino field goals to at least steady themselves just a bit and make sure it wasn't a complete runaway. We are told that Doug Flutie is not on the BC bench, so Joe Paopao or Major Harris will be the Lions quarterback. Eric Starr finds some nice room, and a flag goes down at the end of the kick return. Well, the Lions obviously have to score touchdowns and not field goals, Nick, to get back in this game. The only saving grace for them is they got a lot of time to do it.
Well, that may be it. I don't know whether or not they're enough in sync tonight to put a lot of points on the board. Stampeders are going to let them move the ball a little bit, but they're not going to give up the big play. They're going to have to earn every touchdown they get.
We're interested to watch Major Harris because he is inserted into the game as the quarterback now. The fans will, I'm sure, react to that when the announcement is made and they realize that Joe Paopao is no longer quarterbacking the Lions, but rather this Heisman Trophy candidate, Major Harris from West Virginia University, who, according to which reports you believe, is either very unhappy with his lot in life in the CFL now that the season is winding down, or content to play the role that he has been in. He can certainly run. He's got the body of something other than a quarterback, and that's what he does on his first play.
Well, I think Major Harris is frustrated because he's a good athlete and he wants to get in there and play, but he's got to learn the game first.
Well, the Lions have presented all 3 quarterbacks now to the Calgary defense. There's Doug Flutie with rib cartilage damage, and he won't play anymore tonight and maybe this season. Harris, again, takes off. Could still throw it, and throws it incomplete, and maybe should have kept running on that play.
Well, the big difference between, let's say, Flutie, Paopao, and then Major Harris is that the first 2 quarterbacks have the ability that if their primary receiver's covered, they can look off and find the secondary receiver, read the coverage. Major Harris hasn't learned that yet, but he will learn that. He just has to be patient.
Doug Flutie isn't just out of this game. He looks in real pain yet, and maybe should be somewhere other than where he is on the sidelines now. Pee Wee Smith on the return for Calgary beyond his 30-yard line.
Well, he's definitely not a big guy, but I don't know anybody who had been tackled the way that he was, with Walter Ballard driving the point of the ball up into his ribs, would have definitely been hurt. That's extremely painful, all that force coming down on you.
From the 32-yard line of the Stampeders, Danny Barrett calls signals with 3 receivers to either side. Now he brings the backs in. Tony Cherry hasn't had the ball much. He'll get it this time. Cherry goes over the 35.
Tony Cherry was pretty excited about getting to play inside the dome here. He says, I love this venue. He says, I like to be covered. I don't want to be wet. I like to be warm. He said, and I like the fast track that it provides.
And he'd like to show these fans that he's still the back that he was when he was here in BC as a big star. This catch is made, and it is going to be close to a first down. Alan Pitts going low to bring it off the ground.
Well, these types of what you'd call hitch passes, more than anything, the idea is just to drive the defender back off the ball, get the ball to the receiver, and then put him in a one-on-one situation. The ball was a little underthrown, so Pitts couldn't get up in time.
Barrett has not thrown the short passes, if we can call them that, too well tonight. The long ones have been perfect. Here's a blitz coming from Barrett's backside. He is rocked. The Lions scoop up the ball, or try to, still loose. How's Danny Barrett, we ask? He's up watching all of this. To his dismay, it is Lions ball. He never saw the rush. All he did was feel the rush. Lions have the ball, and Barrett, thankfully, is up.
We gotta do it, baby.
Anthony Drawhorn came up with a football, and the Lions are in scoring territory quickly in this third quarter. Major Harris on the run. Fires the ball, and it is almost caught and then almost intercepted.
You saw Anthony Drawhorn was involved at the start of this play and basically at the end of the play. He comes on the blitz. For a guy that is outweighed by 20 pounds, he lays an excellent hit on Danny Barrett. Danny Barrett in that situation, when that backside blitz is coming like that, he's got to keep running. He can't stop. He can't pull up.
Drawhorn jumps up and wanted to celebrate, but saw the ball was still loose, so after making the hit, he went and got the recovery as well. Major Harris, we've got to put a radar gun on these passes. He really fired the first one. Well, he's exciting. We're not terribly effective yet.
No, there's definitely some raw edges there, and he's not perhaps as quick at changing direction as Doug Flutie, but you see his athletic ability there. He moves around certainly well enough to escape the pass rush and buy himself some time.
This one, 31 yards, well within Martino's range. Carinci to hold. But he missed it. 1 point for Tony Martino. 1 point that really doesn't help the Lions very much at all.
And Wally Buono's going to be content to give this up. He's happy that his defense has been able to stop them in that scoring area and just giving up the field goals rather than the big plays.
Nobody doubts the strength of Tony Martino's leg. They've never doubted that. It's his consistency that has troubled him, and here he had a great start to this game, made 3 field goals just like clockwork, and has now missed 2 in a row. Stampeders have the ball at the 35. Barrett on the draw to Cherry, and he bounced off Andrew Thomas and picked up a decent first down gain.
Almost like a drop play where you see him effectively just waiting till that rush gets pushed past him and then picking his way up through the line.
McVay will pick up the first down. Willie Pless makes the tackle as Pless continues his excellent defensive work.
Well, Willie Pless is definitely a competitor. He's one of those guys that always knows his assignment. He studies all week in practice. And talking to Coach Bob Vespasiani before the game, and he said that if all the players would emulate this guy, said they'd be all pros.
Stampeders have been laying off Ken Watson lately. Alondra Johnson wraps up Tony Cherry right at the line of scrimmage.
Well, this is a situation that you like to be in. Now you know that you've got the other team down. You want to eat up the clock a little bit and just keep working the ball in the running attack. The offensive linemen certainly like that, knock back those defenders.
The backwards hat belongs to Tim Petros, who had an injury-filled season. A frustrating year for Canadian running back Tim Petros. Barrett may have to scramble and run for the first time. Ducked under a hit, took one anyway, and is well short of the first down. And is Barrett hurt?
Fine job of coverage that time by the BC secondary, forcing Danny Barrett to pull down that ball.
Here comes a 51-yard punt by Brent Maddox. We'll check the distance for you officially as Tony Hunter brings it back. You're watching Molson Canadian Football Network. 9:16 left in the third quarter as the BC Lions scrimmage the ball. Stampeders haven't scored in a while. Lions scoring has been kicking points, not the touchdowns that they need. Harris hands off to Graham, and he's shoved back as the Calgary defense is enjoying things.
Kent Warnock again using his height. And see, a guy that's at 6'7" really has great leverage with his arms. He can push those offensive linemen off, shed them, and get to the ball carrier. He can see where that ball carrier is because of that height.
Major Harris and the cavalry charge is on again. Christensen dives. Did he catch it? Yes.
An effective receiver running downfield will see that if his quarterback's in trouble, he should run in the same direction as his quarterback, thereby making the throw easier for the quarterback. And exactly what Christensen does here. Good concentration to get those hands under the ball so it's a legal catch.
That battle between Christensen and Hall has been an interesting one to watch all night long. Harris and the Lions from midfield as Graham takes the toss. Nowhere to go.
Well, that was effectively strung out that time, David. You know the guy I think they really miss, the Lions? I think they miss Ray Alexander in this game. He's really a clutch receiver for them. He makes the difficult catches, and they miss him.
Well, their wide receivers haven't been much of the offense tonight. Hunter and Darryl Colbert. That was a good play by Carl Anthony on the Lorenzo Graham. Anthony at the corner replacing Ron Hopkins, who had played in 34 straight league games before missing this one. Harris, and they can't bring him down that easily. Should have been caught by Darryl Colbert. Major Harris threw it up, and somehow the Calgary defenders ran away from the ball, leaving Colbert alone, and he couldn't catch it.
Well, as I said, that again, they miss Ray Alexander, who would have made, in my opinion, would have made that catch. He's a tough guy, would go up in the crowd and pull that ball down. Now, well, they're giving Major Harris a lot of trouble because what they're doing is they know that he has to throw that ball down the field in order to generate some offense. So they're just flooding all the short zones and chasing him out of the pocket and not really giving him any time to do anything.
Yeah, these scrambles and passes by Major Harris, it looks like a busy intersection with no traffic lights. It's fun to watch, if not terribly effective, as we continue to say. Here's Pee Wee Smith. And as many kick returners as they've got hurt, they just keep putting in more. And the Stampeders do it so well. Stu Laird pulled a hamstring earlier, and though he remains in uniform, he will not return to this game, and neither will Greg Peterson. And he's not in uniform. He's been taken to hospital for x-rays on his injured neck. After Pee Wee Smith's good punt return, it is Calgary ball at their 50-yard line. Stampeders happy to run the ball now with this big lead. Keep the clock moving. Andy McVeigh with that carry.
Sorry, David. Once again, you see Willie Pless using a quick read. That technique that he used right there, an arm over, is very often what a defensive lineman will do on a pass rush to get past an offensive lineman. He avoids a block that way, steps aside, and makes a great play.
There, a quick one to Dave Sapungis, his first catch of the game. The other slot back at that spot, Marshall Toner, has a touchdown catch. Sapungis, the draft pick out of the University of Western Ontario, catches this one as we watch Willie Pless's part in this play.
Well, Willie Pless is what they call a Sam linebacker. It means he lines up to the wide side of the field all the time, and that is because he's quick, he has good range, he covers a lot of territory, and you saw that right there.
Alan Pitts almost broke free of the tackle by Norm Jefferson. It's a big gain anyway for Alan Pitts, 1,000-yard receiver in his rookie year.
Well, again, these tall fellas, a lot of times that their stride is very deceptive. They may take a little bit longer to get started, but once they do, they eat up a lot of territory. But Jefferson, he's got to come up and play him a little bit tougher when he makes his move.
McVeigh was bumped into by his own blocker, or he did the bumping. The ball came loose after the whistle. Ugly looking play.
Especially if you don't get any movement from that offensive line. They've got to at least occupy those defenders. If they can't do that, now what you're doing there is you're playing on your side of the line of scrimmage. You can't get any running game going that way.
The blocker was Sean Beals. The runner was Andy McVeigh. And they lost a yard. Big blitz on Barrett. He throws it up. Pitts has to try to run under it, and Jefferson has perfect position, not allowing Alan Pitts to get to that ball.
Danny Barrett shaking his head, but I don't know if there's much more that he could have done in this particular situation. Londra Johnson just making a beeline. Barrett has to release that ball, and it's up to the receiver to make the adjustment because Barrett can't place the ball exactly where the receiver would like it. He hasn't got the time.
Mark McLaughlin will try a 31-yard field goal. Trying to make this his second one of the game, and it's no good. 1 point only brings the Stampeders to 40 with the score Calgary 40 and BC 17. Let's pause 10 seconds for stations from coast to coast to identify themselves. You're watching Molson Canadian Football Network.
Sunday at 6, expect anything to happen. On Totally Hidden Video, here on 2 and 7 Calgary.
Well, the scoring is most definitely slowed down in this game. Only single points in this third quarter. We haven't had a touchdown in a while since back in the second quarter when Derek Crawford caught his second TD pass, making the score 38-10. Harris takes on a couple of Calgary defenders in a display of brute force.
Well, it looked to me like that might have been a broken play because they're trying to trap Walter Ballard, who's rushing upfield, bringing the Jim Mills across the line of scrimmage. But somebody hasn't got this play right, and I would suspect it might be Lorenzo Graham.
Harris from the pocket has the ball picked off. But that ball hit the ground. There was a question of whether it was a fumble or a pass, but it didn't hit the ground. Major Harris running and trying to throw it, and Mitchell Price caught it.
I guess this is a defensive lineman's dream, either a sack or an interception. And Major Harris, tries to step up to avoid the pressure, but what the Stampeders do so effectively is that they really close that pocket in tight around him, just don't give him any room. And Price isn't going to let anybody have that ball. He might sleep with that ball under his pillow tonight.
35-yard line with the Lions turning the ball over for the 5th time tonight. Receiver was bumped and a flag comes down, and Dave Sapungis had to call for that before the flag was thrown, but it is.
Forward pass interference. BC number 18. First down.
The first 4 turnovers from the Lions all resulted in Calgary touchdowns. Now the Stampeders try to do that for the 5th time and make Mitchell Price's interception even better. A diving catch. Barrett had 2 receivers there, and Sapungis, the second one, caught the ball as it went over McVeigh's head first. I almost thought Andy McVeigh might have been the intended receiver, but Sapungis makes a fine catch.
Well, Andy McVeigh thought he might have been also, but what they do is they're basically sending 2 receivers out in a line, and depending on how the coverage is, either the short man or the long man will get the ball, and that's a quarterback's choice. He makes the read.
Let you hit it with me. Let it sound.
Tony Cherry tries to get loose and now tries for the end zone, and he is in. No, he's not. Looked like Tony Cherry had it. He thinks he did, but these officials are stingy when it comes to those corners. Danny Barrett had a similar play last week in Hamilton. They ruled him out at the 1-yard line.
Cherry, an excellent job. He was supposed to go to the left. He cuts it back because he sees all that daylight. And at 5'7", he even tries to make himself smaller by just squeezing in between the defender and that red marker.
We haven't had a touchdown in this game since the 3-minute mark of the 2nd quarter. And this looks like the next one on the list. Flags are down. Cherry dives. Did he get in? He was up in the air and got shoved back.
If a back is going to jump like that, he needs a great push from his offensive line.
Offside. BC. First down.
Because he has no leg strength at that point. He's just up in the air, and if he's got to really get some great push from his people to carry him over.
Well, the Stampeders still have 3 more cracks at it if they need them. Cherry again. Nope.
BC showing some good toughness here, right down on the goal line. Cherry just trying to drop that head and those shoulders. And once again, Willie Fless there to make the tackle.
As long as Calgary gets in, they don't mind this because it's running lots of time off the clock. But they do have to score to make themselves happy. Barrett himself, and no signal yet.
Well, they've got the three back backfield there, and trying to draw off those linebackers, but they're just honing in on the ball carrier every time extremely well. You see that ball popping loose.
And Danny Barrett has a problem before they can run this 3rd down play, and he's not going to be able to run it.
Well, it looks like he's cramping up, and a lot of times teams come into a closed stadium like this. It's a lot warmer than they've been practicing outdoors all week. So it's cooler, and it's a lot harder to catch your breath in here, and you have things like cramps and shortness of breath, especially among the bigger guys.
So the Lions get ready for a 3rd down play, and it'll be Rick Warman who takes the snap from center, and the question is, what does he do with it?
Well, see, those defensive linemen of the Lions, they're trying to just pick a gap, hit the gap as hard as they can, absorb the blockers. Then it's a job of the linebackers coming over the top to meet that ball carrier and knock him back. They're doing an excellent job right now.
Everybody's out of there. Does Warman keep it or does he throw it? He keeps it and he doesn't score. He runs right into BC defender Wayne Dixon. There's a flag on the play as the third quarter is over, except for the flag. Well, the Stampeders need a little work on their short yardage offense. Jake Ireland reminding everybody the third quarter is not yet over. There was a penalty flag. And it looks like it's against the Lions for offside.
Offside. BC number 78. First down.
Well, regardless of what happens there, you'd have to say that's definitely a moral victory for the BC Lions, because this is a tremendous goal line stand here.
4 times.
Yeah. And more than anything, he probably just encroached on that 1 yard restraining area to get a jump on the play.
This time Cherry is in. The 5th time from a yard out. And he thought he was in initially, remember? So this is taking a little more work than the Stampeders intended.
Yeah, it definitely takes some of the steam out of their attack. You can't feel great about this. I mean, you're happy you got the touchdown.
Looks
but
like they do feel pretty good about it. Well, I think celebrations like this are maybe used improperly in this situation. Wait till it's a good play that's worth celebrating, not a 5th crack from a yard out.
Well, yeah, my feeling is that, fine, this is maybe a situation where it doesn't mean as much, but you've got to have those in a critical game.
So the third quarter's over now, and the Stampeders have a lead of nice round 30 points. Derek McCready and those BC Lions linemen couldn't be asked to do much more than they did. Held the Stampeders out 4 times, but not a 5th. And it could have gone to as many as 7. Eric Starr, newcomer to the BC lineup. Fumbled one earlier. Returns 37 yards out. Well, it took him such trouble, we better look at the one that finally did get over the goal line.
Well, all they're trying to do is pull one of those linemen out and lead and block the end man on the line of scrimmage, and Cherry just cuts in behind that. But the BC Lion defensive linemen, they did a real effective job of closing that 1 yard line of scrimmage and getting to the Stampeder offensive linemen before they could move them out.
Go get him! Go get him!
Everybody flanked to the left. Harris throws that way. One bouncer. So with that touchdown by the Calgary Stampeders, they have now scored 5 of them immediately after BC turnover. 35 points. 35 of their 47 points have come that way.
That again, that gives a coach gray hairs. That's really a worst-case scenario. Again, something that Bob Obilovich is going to address this week in practice, I'm sure, and talk to his people about.
Got him! Hands up!
Harris for Christensen, and that worked nicely. Major Harris looked like the quarterback they think he will become on that play.
Well, he did, and what helped him in that case was that play-action fake. And any time that he's looking to hand that ball off and pull it back in, he causes that defenders to hesitate a little bit and allows that receiver time to get open.
Jay Christensen has more catches for more yards, but Derek Crawford has a couple of touchdowns. Harris sheds another tackle. I think it might be fair to say he's the toughest quarterback in the league to bring down. You can get a hit on him, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Well, that's right, Dave, because you see, you're not going to arm tackle this guy trying to pull him down from behind. There's no way. He's too big and he's too strong. And this guy's been in a dogfight all day. Every time he tries to get open over the middle, he's being harassed, knocked down, dragged down, whatever it takes.
Daryl Hall stole his wallet, too. Hall's been playing Christensen very physically all night long. He's been flagged for it a couple of times.
Well, the Stampeders like that matchup because he's a pretty big guy himself, 6'2", 205 pounds. And he's the kind of matchup that you need on a guy like Christensen who's 6'4", about 220.
Harris handed it off on the draw. They beat everybody but Will Johnson.
Will Johnson, second in the CFL going into this game with 14 sacks, and has been really a thorn in the side all night for those offensive linemen. And just one of those guys that's maybe not quite a full-fledged defensive lineman in terms of size, but he has a lot of that linebacker speed and quickness, and he uses that to his advantage to create a lot of problems for offensive linemen.
Harris sees the blitz and decides to run. He's trying to get outside, and that time a tackle brought him down. Good one by Carl Anthony, Ron Hopkins' replacement.
Again, Major Harris has probably been given the green light by Bob Obilovich that you get back there. If you see something, throw the ball. If not, just take off and run with it. At this point, why not? Gets him involved in the game. And he seems to me to be one of those kind of quarterbacks that if he's running with the ball, he could be more effective throwing after. He gets adrenaline going, the blood flowing.
Well, we'll see what he does on third down here. The Lions don't see much use in kicking, so down 30 points with 12 minutes to go. Third down, Major Harris backs away from center, and the ball's still there, and flags are all over the place.
Yeah, that Jan Carinci has really thrown a couple of excellent downfield blocks tonight, catching guys blindside and really wiping them out.
BC, number 66, still third down.
They'll try it again, and they'll need 5 more yards. Wide open receiver for Harris is Daryl Colbert, and a good job by Major Harris to spot him.
Well, I was wondering, you stand there and wonder, and he's got time, and he's standing in the pocket, and you hope he spots him. His offensive line did a tremendous job of giving him time, and I'm sure Daryl Colbert was getting nervous standing down the field by himself and hoping that ball would get to him, because you see Major look to his left initially and then spot the open man down the field and make the connection.
Away he goes. They'll never get him down. Oh, he's still trying to throw the ball. Well, what do they call this? The whistleblower? Did he throw it incompletion? Boy, the fans love it, even though it's not producing much.
I think the Calgary defensive lineman at this point would call it extra running or extra wind sprints, because this is going to be exhausting, chasing this guy all around the field. And he moves extremely well for a big man. I'm impressed at his mobility. It's just so difficult to bring down. He takes 3 or 4 of them.
Going outside, and Christensen reached down, made the catch. Where did they rule him down?
Well, I guess Jay Christensen says, if you're not going to let me get inside on you, next time what I'll do is I'll just fake going into the middle and I'll break to the outside. Again, tremendous concentration, hanging onto the ball as you're rolling over. That's a very difficult thing to do. And here's a guy that you can see is playing with an awful lot of confidence right now, has really come into his own.
This is third down, 2 yards to go. Graham will get the first down, but not the touchdown.
I think Bob Obilovich has got to feel better about what his team has done coming into the second half here. His defense has played tough all the way down the field. They've generated some things, and regardless, it may not be the prettiest offensive display right now, but it is getting some things done for them.
So first and goal from the 3. Another pitch to Graham, and he's over for the touchdown. His second of the game. That's a touchdown drive engineered by Major Harris.
Well, you get to play middle linebacker on this play. Now, one thing with the BC Lion offensive attack is that normally their fullback will lead you to where the play is going. You saw Skinner that time go to his left or to the right of your screen, so there was a pretty good chance that Lorenzo Graham was going to be carrying the ball that way. The defenders responded. Joe Clausey responded, but he was a little bit late. He got caught up in the block.
Harris stays in. The Lions will go for 2 points. All the motion is to the right. Harris throws it that way, and it's almost caught by Carinci. Tipped maybe before it got to him. So the score remains 47-23. Molson and the Canadian Football Network proud to bring you the best of the CFL. .9:01 to go. The possibility exists that the Lions will try to kick this one short. Instead, it's on the ground long. Took a while to get to Pee Wee Smith, and that is how that kick is effective, and especially so when he fumbles it. Stamp got it back. But the way the Stampeders return kickoffs, that's maybe what you have to do to them.
The BC Lions seem to be favored running behind big Larry Clarkson, that 300-pound tackle. It's not a bad guy to run in behind. Now, on a 2-point cover, Jay Christensen, he looks like he's trying to avoid some contact down here. And unfortunately, the only thing that happens to a dreamer on a football field might be a nightmare. You know he's going to get extra special attention. He's going to wake up sore tomorrow.
He's saying, why didn't they just kick the ball? Get an easy point.
Yes.
Spare me all the pain.
Hi to the family back in Kelowna. Playing for you guys. Good for you, Pot and Sis. The in-laws. We're having fun.
He reminds you that it's Rick Warman at quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders. And he will run rather effectively straight up the middle for a first down.
I guess effectively in the sense that it's certainly not expected that Rick Warman is going to do that. He's a prototype stay-at-home throw from the pocket quarterback. And he'll get some of those because they just don't think he's going to do it.
He had little choice that time. First down, the ball just shy of the 45-yard line.
Just cramp. Rick told me he wanted to get some work in tonight, so I thought I would.
Ooh. Hard hit on Cherry.
The Lions have done an effective job with that front, those linebackers, and Willie Pless especially coming up and making the plays. The one fellow that you haven't heard much about tonight has been Tank Landry, and I guess their game plan of trying to run at him with a lot of quick hitting plays has probably been a little more effective of taking him out of the action.
You're not going to hear much of Tank Landry on those long touchdown passes either. That's a pretty good way to avoid the middle linebacker. Warman to Pitts. Alan Pitts makes the catch for a first down inside the BC 50.
The Lions that time again ran a halfback blitz, and Warman standing in there looking away from the side of the blitz. And you see that little lean out that all Pitts is doing there. He's setting up his move to try and get that defender to turn his feet the wrong way.
Pitts took the hit, but one of the guys who gave it, Norm Jefferson, is down. Calgary leads by 24. 2:26 to go. The Calgary Stampeders have not beaten BC in 2 previous tries this season. There was a tie early in the season here at BC Place Stadium, and the game 2 weeks ago, which the Lions won by 8 points at Calgary. It looks as though the Stampeders are going to be able to say that they beat the Lions tonight. Cherry, and he gets there pretty quickly. Runs right out of bounds.
Well, you can turn that corner to get good help from your line mates, and Tony Spallettini that time on the lead block just did an excellent job of maintaining contact, pushing back those linebackers and allowing Cherry to turn the corner. At some point, you see it right there, that lead block. The longer he can maintain that, the easier it is for Cherry to turn the corner. Use a little bit of a straight arm to keep those people off him.
He wasn't going to stop, though. Just because you're out of bounds doesn't mean you can't get hit, so Cherry continued to run. Tony Spallettini in the game takes a handoff from Rick Warman. Story of this game, the Stampeders scored 38 points in about 18 minutes of football. First quarter and 3 minutes of the second quarter. And they've had only 9 since then, but when you get 38 as fast as they did, the game is pretty well over then. Flags are down. Cherry coming close to a first down.
Once again, that running right at the linebackers of the BC Lions seems to work more effectively for the Stampeders than trying to run away from them, because they have such great pursuit that they'll make that play 9 times out of 10.
Stamps are called for 2 penalties, illegal motion and holding. And it'll be the holding penalty that appeals to the Lions.
See therapist Pat Clayton working up and around the knee area. Very scary for all linemen. It's very hard to protect yourself when you're blocking against someone else. You can't see what's behind you.
So the Stampeders have backed up 10 yards as we take this break. Calgary's lead would appear to be insurmountable.
Good job, Dave.
It's been a rough night for Ken Watson in more ways than one. Now an ice pack. Spallettini, it's Tom, the center, is looked at. Warman throws to Toner as we look back on what has been the story of this game. The quick points for Calgary, 39 of them in the first half, and 35 points in all on turnovers, following Lion turnovers. 4 touchdown passes for Danny Barrett. And we've seen all 3 BC quarterbacks in this game. Flutie left for Pow Pow, and then Major Harris came on in the second half.
David, I think the big thing there is that Stampeders have cashed in big every time they've gotten the ball on a turnover.
Warman down the middle, wide open for Derek Crawford's 3rd touchdown of the game. The first one thrown by Warman.
It was a good read that time by Rick Warman. Once again, the Lions send a halfback blitz from the short side of the field. The offensive, you see Cherry staying in there. He's going to pick that up to buy Warman extra time. Warman just does a real good job of reading it, and they're going to pick on Andrew Thomas, the rookie who's moved over to the corner. He doesn't get too much in the way of help, and when it rains, it pours.
This convert, if Mark McLaughlin makes it, will enable the Stampeders to equal their high point total of this season. They won at Regina's Taylor Field 54-16 earlier this year, and they now lead this game 54-23.
Well, that half roll means that that defense will probably rotate in that direction, and then you just throw back against the direction that the defense is going, you get the one-on-one isolation that you want.
You told me you wanted to get some time in so I could pull the clamp. Hey, did you hear the hammer call? Yeah, did you hear the call tomorrow? Let me get some, baby. Tony, do you mind? What you have? Slide what? Slide 398-02, Derek Post. Got the toast call. Hey, way to see you, Laura.
Rick Warman happy as Mark McLaughlin with that convert is 1 point away from 200, and he set a club record last year with 202. So if he could get a chance to kick a field goal in these final 4 minutes and 36 seconds, he could equal a club mark.
Hey, he's not my friend. He's not my friend no more. Hey, how you doing? He's not my friend. That was from a little girl, too. That was my touchdown.
Crawford has 3 catches, all for touchdowns. That's economy for you.
Returns of the Lions have given them pretty good field position all night, pretty well, except early, I guess, where they had some of those penalties. But when they stay away from the penalties, they've been in excellent field position, giving their quarterbacks a little bit of room to maneuver.
Major Harris will take a first down snap at the 41-yard line.
Go get him! Go get him!
Overthrowing Christensen, who has been everybody's favorite receiver for the Lions this season. Major Harris showing the strength of his arm. Oh, we might see a third Calgary quarterback too, Terrence Jones.
BC Lion coaching staff is assisting Major Harris by sending in the plays for him.
Should be a first down catch by Tony Hunter. He was down right at the yard marker.
Again, a good receiver is always cognizant of where that first down marker is. There's no point pulling up short and not giving yourselves an opportunity to get 3 more downs. And at this point in the game, you think that they're going to have to go on every down until they run out of opportunities or score.
Harris certainly does have great scrambling ability, but he's more effective as a quarterback when he's dropping back and doing what he's supposed to do, getting rid of the ball quickly. Christensen right down the middle for a first down at the 28-yard line.
As we said earlier, Jay Christensen tomorrow will definitely know that he's been in a football game because they've harassed him a lot. They've harassed him an awful lot tonight, and all he's trying to do is make an outside, inside type of move and finally settle down where there's an open space.
3:04 to go as the Calgary Stampeders, with this win, will clinch no worse than a second-place finish. All that's left is to determine the final score. The Calgary Stampeders will leave here and be very interested in tomorrow's game between Hamilton and Edmonton. There's Harris shedding another tackle.
Well, you want to talk about his strength, how he was sure going to be pulled down by Kent Warnock and really shrugged him off and just kept going.
Second down, Lions from the 25. Incomplete pass. He threw it intending it for the newcomer, Eric Starr. And it's third down, and the Lions will try another play.
One of the toughest catches to make when the ball's not quite there and you're falling away, trying to keep an eye on it and get those hands underneath. Very difficult.
Third down, they need 6. Harris dropped the ball. And it's picked up by the Stampeders. Now it's picked up by the Lions. And Stars a first down at the 10-yard line, and there's a penalty flag on the end of the play. How did he come up with it?
I'm not exactly sure, but I bet you $1,000 that they'll never be able to do this again. It's pretty bizarre. Major Harris not even seeing where that halfback blitz is coming from. He really gets clocked, and of course, he's relaxed, so he's not gripping that ball possibly as tightly as he expects. It just pops up right into Starr's hands. And he's got to tuck that away. He's carrying it like it's a loaf of bread or something.
Well, he had a good idea, though, to get out of that pile of people when he did see the ball in the air and run to daylight. And there was a lot of it for him. So it's first and goal from the 5 as Eric Starr makes his best contribution. They pulled his face mask at the end. Here's Harris running to the goal line. Not in. Second down and goal.
This is essentially an option play, and this is the kind of quarterback that can run it effectively. That little fake right there will freeze a defender, hopefully long enough so that he can turn it up inside and score.
Nice tackle by Mark Singer for all the trouble they've had bringing Major Harris down. That was a good job by the rookie Canadian linebacker Mark Singer. It is second down and goal from the 1. I think they can keep Harris out 4 times like the Lions did to the Stampeders. Well, they did it once.
Well, Major Harris is going to sneak it across. He's got to get a lot lower. He just gave up too much of his body that time.
One more time, Mark Singer gets a hit on Major Harris.
See, he's really got to drop those shoulders down. When he's standing up like that, he's easy to take back. He has no leverage. People upset down there, not least of all Bob Obilovich, and the Stampeders do an effective job of a goal line stand this time. Also string this play out to trying to run it to the wide field. They think at some point they'll be able to turn it up, and they just never do. Excuse me, the short field that time.
So a turnover.
That was
kind of spoils the Stampeders record, though, doesn't it? They've scored touchdowns after every other turnover. They'll have to go 109 yards to make that record complete, and Terrence Jones will be the one entrusted to do that. So shall we call this a CFL record? Most quarterbacks in one game. We have now seen 6 of them. Jones risking a safety by running in the end zone, gives it to Cherry. He loses the ball, and Drawhorn's got it, and there's a Lions recovery and a Calgary turnover.
Well, a lot of times fumbles can be just a lack of concentration, but in this game, I think a lot of these fumbles have just been created by hard hitting. You see Jones trying to avoid that goal post, and he hesitated a little bit to pitch that ball. The play still worked. It's just, again, just good hard hitting, creating turnovers.
Lions have it at the 12-yard line with 1:27 to go. Drawhorn's been around the ball all night, hitting quarterbacks, causing fumbles, recovering fumbles. Harris pitches it to Lorenzo Graham, and he goes nowhere.
Harris did a good job that time. He hung onto the ball to the last possible moment, make those defenders commit. They say, no way he's going to dish this ball off, and he did. It was a good play. You know what I think makes Harris so hard to tackle? He's got high leg action. I really think that would make the thing that makes him so hard to bring down. He really picks those long legs of his up. He's got good leg strength and drive.
Well, it's almost like he's attacking the tacklers before they get to him. Most quarterbacks, you'd call them passive, I guess. They're not really thinking about delivering any hits. But Harris would make you hesitate, I think, before you leaned on him. We'll select a Molson Most Valuable Player following this game. The Lions have had individual standouts, but the Stampeders are the winners. Easy winners, as the scoreboard tells us, 54-23. And a big win for Calgary. It could be celebrating first place by tomorrow night if the Edmonton Eskimos should lose to Hamilton. And we keep talking about what that game means to Edmonton, Nick. The Hamilton Ticats are in a playoff battle in the East and have to win
Procedure.
to hold off
BC
Ottawa.
number 9, still second down.
Well, it gets to that point in the season, and there's a lot of pressure on teams to perform now when they need to get their defense in sync and start to hit on all cylinders offensively. And Edmonton right now is struggling. There's just no doubt about it. They're going to have to break out those doldrums if they want to make a run in the playoffs.
Harris to the end zone. Is it caught? Yes. Tony Hunter, what a great catch to tip it first and give himself a second chance and then dive for the ball. It is a touchdown by Tony Hunter.
Well, the first part of this play that impresses me is the fact that Major Harris, with that pocket closing in around him, stands tall in there and delivers the football. Good overhand action. I mean, it isn't a pretty pass, but then the second part is that you see Hunter just, again, tremendous concentration, falling away, not giving up on the ball. And if you don't give up on the ball, good things can happen. And he's made a statement with that catch and saying, I'm going to be there for next year.
2-point convert try by the Lions. Flags are down. Probably illegal motion unless the Stampeders are judged to be offside. Harris on his way to the end zone if he can get there. Throws it into the end zone. 2 points. Carinci, let's check the flag. Looked like Harris backed away from the center. Thought the ball was coming, didn't. He hesitated. Finally got the snap. And my guess would be illegal motion, BC. But it shouldn't take that much time to decide, should it? That is the call.
Well, you got to get the snap count correct, and this is the second time that Majors pulled out a little bit early.
Number 9.
They were way offside, too, if you wanted to call it that. By the time he got the ball, there were receivers in the end zone. So they'll back up 5 yards, do it again.
Well, he certainly is creating his own opportunities and wearing out that Stampeder defense to boot.
Harris throws it up. Knocked down, incomplete. Carl Anthony over there's played a good game for Ron Hopkins.
Well, he has, and there was some concern on Wally Buono's part. He said practice, the guy did a good job, but obviously when you go into a game, it's a whole different situation. And one thing that impresses him is that when the ball is in the air, he closes on the ball and on the receiver very well.
What's up, Easy? That's for you, Greg.
Again, Hamilton at Edmonton. The Ticats are tied for third place in the East. If they win this game and a game next week, then they will make the playoffs ahead of Ottawa, but they do have to win to make sure of that. And Edmonton must win tomorrow to keep a first-place hope alive. And also, the Eskimos, if they don't win that game, could very easily finish third in the West. Calgary ball. Ball was perfectly placed. All it needed was a Lion to try to bat it out of bounds, but no Lion got to it.
Well, when the ball is kicked, those people up front for the Stampeders are told, don't back up to catch the ball. Run upfield and pick off one of those guys coming down, and we'll let the guys behind you catch the football.
See Johnson there throwing a block. Didn't do any good, though. Alondra Johnson was the closest guy to the ball and should have been trying to get his hands on it.
Got to have Jim Mills over there.
Terrence Jones finds a receiver. That's Derek Crawford. That's boring. He caught a pass and it wasn't for a touchdown.
Well, that's when you throw the ball deep early in the game. What it does is even if it's not successful, it's going to scare that defense, and those defenders will back off. They don't want anybody to get behind them. Next time, you just pull up short and catch the ball in the flat.
Until then, he had 3 catches and 3 touchdowns. Could have dropped that one. Jones is throwing as he goes down. Near Dave Sapunjas. 50 seconds remaining.
Well, I think Bobo Bilovich will be pleased with the effort. They turned over the ball far too many times to be effective.
Good job,
and as we mentioned earlier, the Stampeders capitalized. But at this point, I think he just wants to see a lot of effort. He doesn't want to see any quit from his players. And on that note, he's got to be happy.
Take it to him, big deep track.
Jones throws outside. The catch is made by Pee Wee Smith, taken out by Norm Jefferson.
It's one of the toughest throws for a quarterback to make. You see Danny Barrington do it because he's got the arm strength, and Jones the same thing, where you're on the far hash mark and you throw the breakout pattern to the wide field. The ball has to travel a long way.
It is a first down on Pee Wee Smith's catch. He's looked good tonight. Started with a bang with a good kickoff return and a nice catch. The Stampeders have nicely put together a dangerous receiving corps this year. Jones taken down. You know, at the start they were talking about Alan Pitts and Derek Crawford and Eddie Brown. Now it's Pee Wee Smith. Not big names, not players that too many people knew about in the CFL, but they have certainly done the job. Pitts and Crawford, of course, have now become stars in this league.
The interesting thing is they're also all rookies, so they could be around for a lot of years to come, creating headaches for defenses.
Jones rifles one for a first down to Pitts.
Here we go.
Z, Harold.
Hey,
Hi, Court.
Perth.
It's January 27th.
January 27th in Perth, the hockey game of the Stamps. We'll be there. Come on down and see us. Great show. Great show.
Dan Wicklum, you see the front, that blood all over the front of his jersey. That's what special teams is all about right there. Nothing too fancy.
Well, this will be the final play of the game. The Stampeders are 20 yards away from another touchdown. They'll hand the ball to Cherry, and he doesn't get much. But the Stampeders have 2 very big points. They can't be worse than second, and they could be first in the West. Calgary wins it 54-29.